connecting. I think we're live. Hello, everybody. I've got Kristen. How do you say your last name? Drunky or Drunchi or
Yeah, Duranci. Yes, it's
Duranchi?
Italian, so I think it was Duranci at one time, but it's Duranci.
Got it. So, yeah, so I think a lot of people will probably be watching the replay of this. So if you are, let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hi in the comments. We definitely circle back around and read those. And so I'm Cindy Baker. I'm an executive function coach, which is all things productivity. I specialize in helping adults who have ADHD. And I am interviewing Kristen today because we are talking about how to grow your business God's way. And she is a kingdom business strategist on a mission to bring mamas home, restore the family unit, and raise kingdom warriors while building businesses that shake hell and advance heaven. She helps bold women launch and grow online businesses by God's design without bowing to hustle culture, chasing social media algorithms, or compromising their faith. A former 9-to-5er turned status quo disruptor, Kristen is the movement maker behind the Kingdom Revolution podcast, equipping daughters of the King to take their place on the business battlefield, take back territory, and create eternal impact. Now, if that didn't get you all excited, I don't know what will.
But thank you so much, Cindy.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about some people in my audience and my client base are believers and some are not, and that's fine. But Kristen specifically targets Christian women. And one of the things that we talked about before we got on here is how we have a tendency to chase shiny objects. Every shiny opportunity. So talk about that a little bit. What is that? What does that mean, chasing shiny objects? And what is the problem with that? What does that cost them?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think all of us high performing entrepreneurs, whether we are women or men, Christian, or we serve the secular world, right? We are always wanting to learn and grow. And I see this in my clients all the time, chasing the shiny objects or that next opportunity, or they see someone doing something that's successful and they just, they stop what they're doing and they go do that thing. So I think all of us deal with chasing shiny objects, but the question, that you said is, what is that costing them, and what is that hindering in their business? Because I know on Friday I get to interview you, and we're going to be talking about the strategy behind everything. But what is chasing shiny objects, cost them? Well, it's costing us clarity, right? Because every new opportunity pulls a founder's message or an entrepreneur's message, their offer and energy in another direction, right? So when we're going one way and we're like, oh, let's go this way, it's costing us clarity. And eventually our audience can't tell what our business is actually known for, right? So it's costing us clarity. It costs us trust. A scattered business makes our potential buyer wonder, is she leading me somewhere, or is she trying to do this next best thing? I'm not quite sure, what she's doing. And in a market of today where people are already cautious, right? We know that the buyers are more discerning today. So trust is not rebuilt by doing more, right? It's built by becoming consistent and doing the same thing over and over and over again. That feels boring to us, right? But we need that because it's going to cost us trust. And then it also, chasing that shiny object costs us our authority, right? Because distraction resets that clock. And an entrepreneur that always keeps pivoting or keeps chasing shiny objects and never stays with one problem long enough to become the obvious answer for their person, then they don't get to where they want to be. And then lastly, it costs us stewardship, which as a kingdom woman entrepreneur, that's the spiritual cost, our stewardship. Because not every open door is an assigned door to us. So discernment asks, is this fruitful or is this just available for me? Because it's going to cost us stewardship, which costs us our calling and our mandate.
Yeah, you said we don't have to do more. I think it's about doing the right things, doing more of the right things, not doing more. And you mentioned discernment. We live in the AI era now. So, how is discernment the most valuable business skill in the age of AI? Why now specifically? What has changed?
Yeah. Gosh, this keeps coming back. And when we're talking about what we should be talking about, this really popped up, and I've been talking about this a lot. So I feel that the Lord has something for women listening, or for me, right? For anyone, but two reasons. And it's probably kind of lengthy. So AI has made content like the content output cheap, right? Anyone can create content right now using AI. And I was digging into some statistics. I think Stanford's 2026 AI index says that AI reached 53% population adoption within 3 years. So that was faster than PCs or internet. Like when a computer was introduced, yeah. So I'm like, oh my goodness. And that means like content, your ideas, our hooks, our scripts, they're generated quickly by almost anyone. So the question no longer is, can I create more? Because everyone's creating more. So why do we try to compete with that? I think the question for us as Kingdom Women entrepreneurs is, can I judge what is worth creating? Because that discernment, can I judge what is worth creating? That discernment aligns with wisdom and that knowing of, okay, I'm seeing it through my assignment and through God's viewpoint of choosing the right course of action. And when AI is everywhere, and we're living in a time where people can clone their voices or generate faces, right? That discernment is not just knowing what is technically accurate for our business, but discernment is the ability to recognize what is true, pure, and holy, and aligned, with God. And I think for us as believers, that discernment is going to be key, because and it's detrimental to our discernment, because when we keep exposing ourselves to artificial voices, artificial wisdom, artificial authority, something starts to happen internally. We start to question ourselves, like, is that real? I don't know if that's real. Like, I that's where the danger is. I mean, does that kind of make sense? Like, AI can make deception look excellent, and it can make confusion sound wise. And if we're not careful, we are going to start outsourcing that very discernment God gave us to steward. It kind of reminds me of boiling a frog. Have you heard about boiling a frog?
Yeah. You just get used to it, right?
Yeah. Like the water, if you put a frog in a pot and the water slowly becomes hot, the frog doesn't know, because when it slowly heats up, but little by little by little, the frog's just like, oh, it's just getting warmer until it starts to boil. It doesn't realize it's being boiled. So I kind of believe that's what's happening right now with discernment. So the deeper question that we get to ask is, with the shiny objects and what way we should go in our business and how we should use strategy, is this the right next step? And then really asking us, is this forming me to hear God more clearly? Or is it training me to trust like outside wisdom, outside discernment? Because that's the real cost.
Yeah. And how do you how do you use that discernment to determine what the next step is? What are some
So
questions?
for Yeah. So some questions that if so for the woman listening right now, if you're staring at, let's say, just three different opportunities, the first question I like to ask myself and I tell my clients to ask yourself is which opportunity is most aligned with the assignment God has already given me? Not the one that's most exciting, not the one that could make me the most money, but what is the one most aligned? Because when you understand that, which one is the most aligned with what the Lord's already calling you to steward in your business, that's where clarity comes. Because clarity usually starts with assignment. And if this opportunity is going to deepen your message, strengthen your obedience, serve your people you're called to serve, and produce peace instead of panic, then definitely pay attention to it, right? But if it's feeding comparison, the fear of missing out, because we all have that FOMO, right? Urgency, ego, or just the need to prove ourselves, then we need to slow down and ask, is this the right next step to go?
Yeah. Yeah. And, scripture says an double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And so if you're, like I walked my dog this morning, I have a new dog and he's kind of got some hound dog in him. It's a rescue mutt. And every smell, he goes over here and then he goes over there and then he goes over here and he's just all over the place. And we're like that so many times, in our business, without realizing it, that shows up. So you've said the kingdom doesn't advance through hesitation. It advances through obedience. But you also value discernment before action. So talk about that a little bit. How do those two live together without contradicting?
Yeah, I don't see discernment and obedience as opposites. I see discernment as the process that protects obedience from becoming an impulse. Hesitation says, I won't move until I can control the outcome. I think that for a lot of us, that's why we hesitate, because we're like, how can I control the outcome? Yes. Yeah. How can I make sure that I'm not going to fail? How can I make sure I'm going to be safe? So the hesitation says, I'm not going to move until I know I can control the outcome. But discernment says, I'm going to seek God. I'm going to test the fruit. I'm going to count the cost, and then I'm going to listen for wisdom and then move. And that's the key I think a lot of us miss. You need to move and keep moving until he gives you enough light for that next step. That's the difference. That's the difference, because the kingdom doesn't advance through fear-based delay, because fear-based delay is actually disobedience. It also doesn't advance through reckless striving. It advances when women hear God, surrender control, which is a hard thing to do, and obey that next instruction. But obey means move, take action, and
can't
move.
Steer a parked car.
Yes, I love that. Right.
Yeah. And I always say that action comes before motivation. So many times we're looking for that clarity of the final outcome, but we're also waiting until we feel like moving. Yeah. Tell me a little bit, because I know you've got another appointment to go to. Tell me real quick about your transition from the 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship. And then before you leave, I know you have a free gift for the listeners. So I want to make sure you tell them about that.
Yeah. So when I left my government job, I think that plays right into that last question, which is great question to end on. When I left my government job, I was the breadwinner of the family, I guess you could say. My husband was self-employed. When he didn't have paint work, we didn't have income coming in on his end. So I did not have every answer when I turned my resignation in. I had that 3-month-old on my lap, and I heard God say, I will provide, as clear as day. and I knew he would, but I didn't have the full blueprint. I did not know every client, every dollar, every door that would open, every detail. And that was very uncomfortable because that government work gave me structure. It gave me predictability. It gave me a title. It gave me a paycheck and that sense of security, right? But I knew I had reached a point where staying would require me to shrink. And that clarity didn't feel like certainty. And I knew that I didn't want to shrink who God created me to be. So understanding that piece, that felt like conviction. And
So
that
good.
conviction is what gave me clarity. Even though I didn't know everything that was going to come after, I just knew that I couldn't ignore that conviction inside of I needed to do the next thing. I don't know what it's going to cost me. I know it's not going to be easy, but I had enough clarity through that conviction for that next step.
Yeah. Wow. And that visual of shrinking, that's one of the factors is who am I going to become? Not just if I take this action, what's going to happen in my business, but who am I going to become if I take this path versus that one, Wow.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I love it.
Well, tell us about the free gift you have.
Yes.
Party ending thoughts or advice you have.
Yes. So I have a few free gifts and I was like, how am I going to do this? I think the best way is because, the links and stuff here. And I know each of us are going to be sharing back to our email list. And I get to have you on Friday, which we'll talk about in a moment here, I'm sure. But for those listening, if you are a faith-filled Christian woman in online business who are in the beginning stages, you have not yet reached those 5K consecutive 5K, 10K months of foundations that you need, and you feel like you've been duct taping your business together, DM me bold because I have a resource for you. And depending on where you are in your business, and because my kingdom growth map has 5 lanes. So instead of saying, oh, I can give you this, this, or this, I just want you to DM me in Substack, bold, BOLD. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions. And then I'm going to get an amazing resource into your hands that will help you with what stage of business you're in.
Oh, that's awesome. And hi, Taylor. Hey, Mandy, Marie.
Hi, ladies. Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking about Kristen's free gift. Now, this is a 2-part series. And so Friday, I am going to be on your Substack. And you have really kind of mapped out how we stop chasing shiny objects and instead seek discernment, godly discernment, and focus, which is really my thing. My whole Substack is faithful focus. So next time on Friday at this same time period, we're going to go live again on your Substack, and we're going to talk about how to implement that next right step. How do you manage your time? How do you manage your energy, your focus? Especially if you have ADHD like me and many of my clients. I have some little tricks and tips that might be helpful. So make sure you tune in for that, and make sure you DM Kristen if you're interested in her resource. That sounds awesome. And I'll stay on a little bit longer. I know you've got to go to another appointment, but I'll stay on for Q&A a little bit. And I appreciate you sharing with me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cindy. And I so look forward to interviewing you Friday and having you provide those massive value on your area of genius, how to strategize, how to use your time wisely, and all that stuff. And I appreciate you.
Sounds great.
And Taylor and Mandy Marie, thank you for joining. I am so honored to be here, and have an amazing day.
Yeah. So bye. I'm going to do a little recap.
No worries. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later. So if you just joined on, she had to run to another appointment, but make sure you go back and watch the replay, because Kristen dropped some gems talking about discernment and how we can avoid chasing all the shiny objects every opportunity, how we can stay focused. On Friday, I'm going to talk about how to, once you've picked your focus, how do you implement that next right step? How do you manage your time? How do you get the important things done? Because it's not about getting more done. It's about doing the things that matter, the things that make a difference. So if you guys have any questions, if you're on here live, type them in the chat. Otherwise, make sure you go back and watch the replay. Make sure you tune in on Friday at the same time. It's 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. And I will be offering a free gift on Friday. So make sure you tune in for that. And if you're watching this on the replay and you have any questions or comments, say hi in the chat. Where are you guys tuning in from? I'm listening to a big rainstorm. I'm in a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee. It's very, very hot and humid here today, but now it's raining. So where are you guys from? And if you're watching the replay, let us know that as well. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to end this. But thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll do it again on Friday at 3 Eastern. See you then. Bye.